This is Erin Bohannon, and I'm here to talk to you today about defamation of character and how it applies to educators. The reason why I chose this topic was because I think we can all get caught up in the teacher lounge gossip, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to share some reasons why we need to be really careful about what it is we say about students. Um, Defamation of character is a tort, which is a wrongful act where somebody has made false statements, and the statements can be made orally, and that's called slander, or the statements can be made in writing, and that's libel. And the intent of the statement is to harm a person's name and or reputation, and these type of statements can lead to hatred, contempt, or ridicule by the person that was being discussed. In my research, I found four different types of defamation of character in schools. The first is school personnel defaming a student. The second was student defaming a school personnel. The third was student that defames another student. And the final type I found was school personnel defaming another school personnel. So in the first type that I found it was school personnel defames a student, and this is the one that teachers have to be very careful about. In order for information to be shared about a student, the party receiving the information must have privilege or a common interest in the needs of the child and good faith. There has to be a reason. Just because two teachers work with a student doesn't necessarily mean there's good faith. Both teachers have to know that information in order to have the child be successful in school. And the statements were shared either carelessly or negligently. The way in which the information was shared here is very important. This is also a good time for teachers to review the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, because these come into play a lot whenever we're talking about school personnel defaming a student. The example that I found was a parent questioned whether or not she could sue a school because her autistic son was in an altercation at school where he became violent. And the school told another student and his parents about the child's violent tendencies. On the website that I found that listed this as an example, it was Expert Law was the name of the website, and 3 members that were on that website said that the parent had no case for slander because the child was a threat to others. So the next type of defamation was when a student defames school personnel. Because school personnel are public figures, malice must be proven in these cases. The example that I found was a student was charged with defamation of character because of a Facebook page that was created about his school principal. The charges were dropped because the student accused was not the person who created the Facebook page, he only visited it. The student was then suing the school for defamation because he was accused of a crime and arrested in school. So this one kind of goes both ways because the information about the student was then shared, the student felt in an inappropriate way, which then later on caused him some hardship. The next type of defamation of character was when a student defamed another student, and a couple of examples were listed, but one specific example that was very recent was a parent of a bullied student was suing 3 girls for defamation when they posted unkind words and a video on a social networking site. This was only one of many examples that complaints have been filed, and they said that we're going to see more and more of this type of thing with these social networking sites. And I did not find a summary judgment. This case was just filed in May of this year. So it will be interesting to see how cases like this continue to go. And finally, school personnel defames other school personnel. The particular example that I found of this was a teacher who was suing the school district for defamation. It was a really long, drawn-out case, but basically the principal alleged that the teacher stole some property, and the superintendent made public comments about a teacher's arrest and misconduct. And there were some kind of questionable actions made by the teacher in the summary of this case. But both the principal and the teacher was also accusing the principal and superintendent of falsifying statements of some of those questionable decisions that the teacher made. The court filed in favor of the school district because of the teacher's misconduct. The statements that were made were true, which brings us to defenses for defamation. Because defamation must be a false statement, a defense that can be made is proving the facts that somebody said were true. Second of all, if the person who is told the information has a right to know the information, then it is considered okay because of privilege. And finally, once again, good faith. If there was a purpose for sharing information, then the courts would rule in favor of the person sharing the information because of good faith. So things to remember when you're dealing with sharing information, and this includes both verbally and in writing. You want to be factual. Opinions have no place in these types of situations. You need to just state your facts as they are and leave your opinions out. Keep accurate records. Make sure you are constantly updating your records. And when you do update them, make sure that you date that information so that it has a very chronological timeline. This helps support your case. Do not share information with third parties, especially if they don't have privilege and you are not sharing in good faith. Catty or gossipy comments are not needed in education. And keep your information secure. If you are talking to a person who does have privilege in the certain situation, make sure that you are having the conversations behind closed doors, or if you're doing it in writing, make sure the documentation is in a very secure place where nobody else can get to it. If you question whether or not information should be shared, ask your principal. Some schools have counselors. Those would also be good people to ask, but do not just assume anything in a situation like this. As far as ISLIC standards go, managing organizational systems and safety, which is standard 3, definitely comes into play because an educational leader and anybody in education needs to know what your school and your district's policies are about the Educational and Rights and Privacy Act. Everybody needs to know the way in which situations are handled in order to share the information. And also ethics and integrity. This is where gossip can come into play, and we just know that there is no room for gossip in the realm of education. I had to do extensive research in order to find this information. So here is a list of the websites and the textbook that I used for this presentation. I would say that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I found lots of other information that I didn't specifically use in this presentation, but definitely good reading for thought. So I definitely recommend looking further into this because I do think that teachers can get caught up. Thank you for your time.